day has come to light up this mega beast. It's a big old burn pile, but we should be fine. It's a nice calm day. There's occasional little breeze out of the south-southwest, which is actually really good because the tree line here is on the south and the west side. So if there is any breeze, it's going to push the fire away from the tree line. But just to show you guys, of course, I'm getting the first little pilot light lit here. Some guys will use diesel and hay or whatever else. I just use this propane tank and shove that weed burner up under there for about 10 minutes in any given spot and it'll take off. So I'll start moving it across here, you know, every 50 foot or so. I'll start a little pilot to get it burning up into that pile. And then of course, once it gets up into the main pile, it's going to go up like tinder. This stuff's been stacked for almost 6 months. So it's going to be nice and dry and burn real hot. But the more important thing is fire suppression, which I'll show right after I move this burner. Okay, so the more important topic other than the fire itself, okay, so we've moved, we got the first light, and we got the second part started there. I'll show you the fire suppression. So here's our 100-foot long fire hose. I've got the 3/4 inch nipple on the end of it, which I showed you guys when I was spraying down the excavator from about 50 feet away. So once we get the fire going, we'll start the pump. I'm gonna spray down all these logs just to help protect them. They should be good and wet. I'm not really that worried about them, but I'll spray them down just because we can. And then the fire hose will be just for suppression in general. But we're connected up over here. We got a 100-foot fire hose, which I need to get laid out so it's pretty straight because the more kinks we have in it, we get a lot less flow. So I need to straighten it out some. But then we're going in here, and then we've got our crossover to our 3-inch pump hose, 3-inch discharge. And then I've got 150 foot of 3-inch hose. And I've got my water pump set up out here at the road ditch, which I showed you in the video when I was talking about kind of planning, you know, the next phase of the job. We're going to pump from the road ditch. We got about 2 inches of rain just a couple days ago. So everything out here is wet down real good. All these pine needles are damp. The ground is still muddy. So it is the perfect time to try to light this stuff up as far as, you know, fire control or risk of a wildfire. There's no burn ban. It's not windy. So today's the day. But I got the pump sitting over there by the tractor. The hose is in the ditch already ready to go. So it looks like my second start point is already kicked off and doing pretty good. So I'm gonna go move that burner again, and then we'll get the water pump fired up and start soaking down those logs. Now I will say, unfortunately, as we start these piles, I don't have the excavator over here. Ideally, I'd like to have it over here to stir the pile and get it all burned down real good in the first shot. But we just haven't had time to move it over here yet. Haven't needed to bring it over here yet. So today we're just going to burn it down and just get the bulk of it burnt down, and then we'll bring the excavator back over hopefully in a couple of weeks. Then we'll organize it and we'll get it lit again at the time. But just figured I'd mention that. Most times you want to have a bulldozer or something here, but like I said, this is just a primary. Burn it down, get it condensed, and then we'll condense it and light it again. Well, there you go. It's got a good hot spot right down there in the middle. It's taken a while to get it going. That spot just flared up. Got into a bunch of pine needles in there in the middle, but I did have to cheat a little bit. Went around the edges with some accelerant, but this is what I was looking for. I wanted to get it out there into the middle of the pile, because once that middle gets hot like it's doing now, that sucker's just gonna go up and up and up, and it'll start caving in on itself and feeding itself. So that's what we need. You know, I started out going around the edges with a little propane torch, and it works good locally, but it doesn't want to spread. So a little bit of lighter fluid on there to help get, you know, some bigger fireballs, if you will. And now it's right where I need it to be. And like I said, I know this pile, when it burns down, it's still going to look pretty messy, but it'll burn down a lot to where we can get it condensed. Here we've got another hot spot forming up there off something. Oh, look at that. Boom. Just caved down. That's exactly what I wanted to do. So once we get a rip roar in here, it'll burn itself down in a couple hours. But this is the point we needed to get to. It's taken a couple hours to get here. We're watching these stumps right here. There's a couple of big stumps right there in the middle of that pile, and as they're burning, the whole pile's starting to cave in. So that's actually really good, because those stumps are putting weight on the stuff below them. So as the stuff below burns, the whole pile's condensing. That's exactly what we're wanting to happen. Whoa, she's flaring up again. We're getting a little bit of a breeze, but not bad. Nothing's out of control by any means. But having a good time. This main fire here that's burning is the same one I showed you all a little bit ago. It's the only one that we've got to really take off, but it has it's paid dividends. It's working its way through the whole pile. Just this one main, there's a couple little side clusters like over here on the right. There's that little one there. And there's one back in the back that you can't really see through the smoke, but this one main one is doing all the work pretty much. So we're just hanging out at this point, just watching this next big pile right here of all those stumps. When that lights up, that'll be the last of my real concern as far as stuff that's tall. But the rest of it, occasionally, you know, like I said, we're sitting here watching, and occasionally you'll just hear something collapse inside, a log will burn in half or something like that. And that's all we're looking for today. Since we're not stirring, we're just looking to burn it down and let it condense. Well, I think the most exciting stuff is just about over with. It's still blazing hot over there in the middle, don't get me wrong. It's still burning quite a bit. A couple of big stumps in there have got going, so they're keeping it going good and hot. But what's funny is there's little spots like right in here where there's still pine needles that didn't burn. And over here, despite how hot that got, there's still pine needles that didn't catch on some of the corners. So it's kind of peaceful almost, just sitting here listening to the breeze. I think we played it just about right. You look up at the pine trees, they're dancing a little bit. But actually down in here inside this clearing, since we're surrounded by the trees, I'm not really feeling much of a breeze. But kind of makes me wish I had old Rosie in here now, because I'd be able to start rolling this pile up and condensing it and really getting it going. But you know, it's plenty wet. It is what it is. So we'll get her back in here when the time's right, and then we'll roll it up and relight it then. So anyway, pretty much done with the big burn for now. Just kind of checking it every 30 minutes to an hour and just letting it burn itself down.